Today's lesson is dealing with the structure of a HTML web page. Typically, there's two components to a website. You're going to have the head, which contains information that is mostly used for the servers or other services like Google when they want to index your page. And then there's the body, and within the body is where you see the actual content, or the people visiting your page will see your content. So here is W3 Schools, and here is the meta tags, or the meta tag that you will see within the head. And the different meta tags have different properties and attributes. The properties are, for example, in red here, which is name and content, and the attributes are what are associated with it. For example, you'd have the property with the attribute keyword, and you could have content property with attributes with whatever you want to put in there. Another one would be description, and you can put, for example, the description of your website. So the properties are name and content, and the attributes are what you put inside there. But it's really the meta tag. So when we go back to our web page, and this is my account, right, for Infinity Free, and I go to manage. Now, once again, you can go to file manager or control panel, but it's just usually quicker to go to control panel because you don't want to see all the other functions in the control panel. So I'll just go to file manager, and I'll go ahead and go into my htdocs folder. And then inside here, you'll see your index.php page. So you click once on it and you do edit. And now we're going to see our current web page, which doesn't really have too much in there. Let me see if I could zoom in a little bit. We have our HTML beginning and ending tags on line 1 and 5. We have our body that starts on line 2 and ends on 4. And the content is within it. Now, what I'm going to do is click right after line 1 at the very end on HTML and press enter. And this is where I'm going to put my head. So the head is just like the body. I'll do an angle bracket, head, end angle bracket. Now I'll hit enter one, maybe 2 times, just to go ahead and give me a little bit of space to work. And I'll do the ending head tag so I don't forget. I always try to do the beginning and ending. Otherwise, when you're doing a lot of code, as you progress and become more complex at coding, you may forget to put an ending tag. So I always try to remember to put it right at the very beginning. It's just one less debug step you're going to have to do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and press enter, or go after the head. And when we talk, there's 2 things we really talk about when we're coding. One is syntax and one is structure. Syntax is the actual, like the HTML, that's the syntax. The structure is how it is aligned so the viewer can see it, or the programmer. And how I kind of want to do this is I want to make it legible. Well, technically, I could just do this and program everything so it is on line 1, just like this. And if I were to do that, it'll work just the same. It makes no difference for the computer or the server. It will output just perfectly fine. But you as a programmer, yeah, you go and you look at this and you're like, oh my God, this is a little bit more difficult to read, for example. So for it to be legible for the programmer, to give it a structure that is more easily distinguishable for you so when you can read it while you're programming and helping and debugging and so on and so forth, it's good to kind of use a structure like this where everything that is nested is indented. So for example, I might want to do one indent for the head, one indent for the body, because these are nested within the HTML. Now you can see that more clearly. This is like the bread, the HTML, and this is all the goodies on the inside of my sandwich, right? Now, if you're going to follow that structure, the head comes next, so whatever is inside the head will also be tabbed. Okay, so if we want to go ahead and put a meta tag in here, it is just meta, oops, not meat, meta, I was thinking too much sandwich still, and that would be the meta tag. Now, meta tags don't have ending tags, so you could just go ahead and put them like this. You'll notice none of them have them. You go down to the example. Here's a perfect example of how that should work, right? So if I go back to my code, let's go ahead and put meta, and let's give it the first property is name, and we'll do description. And actually, I made my first coding error here. All the properties or the attributes has to be within quotes. Now, the content property, and I'll give the attribute, and I can type something. This is going to be in English. It'll show up in a search engine result. So I'll say this site is a practice site, right? That's all I need to really put. You'll notice once again, its syntax highlighting is going on, so it makes it much easier for you to determine where a problem may be if you did a coding error. Now, if I want to do another meta tag, I would just put it below, right? So I put meta, right? And I'll put name. And let's give this one, well, let's go back and look. I haven't done metas in a long time. Author is a good one. Keywords, super important. Keywords, by the way, we'll later talk about SEO or search engine optimization. That's how your website gets registered with like all the different search engines like Google and Bing and stuff like that. You need to have keywords. So I'll go ahead and put content equals, and I'll put HTML. For example, I don't know, because that's what this website is about. It's also about PHP, so I can put PHP in there with a comma. So if anyone's looking for HTML or PHP and they type those words in Google, my page theoretically will come up. Now, I got to end this angle bracket here, and that's my head tag. There's one more tag that typically goes inside a head, and that's title. And it does not have a property necessarily. It might, but I typically don't use it. And I'm just going to put Dr. Page, right? And then I'll do the end title. This will require an end tag. And then that shows up in the tab up above where all this stuff is, and I'll show you that in a second. Now, if we're going to follow this structure, though, where we indent, it'd probably be a good idea to do that for the body, because the image tag is within the body tag. So it also will be nested, right, or indented. So as you can see, this is perfect structure for a web page, and yours should look similar. You don't have to do it, but as your page becomes more complex, it will definitely make it a whole lot easier to debug and for other people to read if you're working as a team on a website. So go ahead and let's check this out. So I'm going to zoom back out and do save. And then if I go back to my control panel and I type open in new tab, you should see, oops, why didn't that work? Let me go back. I have to click on the actual link. You'll notice I don't see any difference because I didn't actually add any content. I actually just added the head meta tags. But you'll notice up on the tab up here, it now says Dr. Page. And that comes from the title tag. So now I have a title in the tab, and I have all the SEO stuff, search engine optimization stuff, and I have a banner in here. So next lesson we'll add more content to your page.